In some ways, I would say it was surprising, but I think the way I prepared, and I mean this in the most humble way. I believed it. I always believed that was the way I was going to set myself up to start my career and just continue to build on that. But yeah, I mean there was a lot that happened throughout the season. I mean, going from a college season to an NFL season, you realize how long it truly is to go from from really July in training camp to the mid January for the whole season. I mean, you're talking a full 6 months of football that you don't really get in college, that you're usually done by December in college. So I mean that was what I was most proud of, is just fighting through that, because everyone really talks about a rookie wall. And I think in me and Jared's case, we didn't really have that opportunity, because from early on we were thrown out into the fire of, hey, like, you guys are going to have to be a vocal piece to this defense. And I think we stepped up to the occasion. And I think there's obviously, I mean, I'm a perfectionist in my own right. And like, there's so much I want to work on, so much I want to get better at. So like, going into this season, it's time to really turn it up. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, you can't be mad at finishing as a finalist for defensive rookie of the year, other than not winning it. You can be mad at that. But overall, yeah, I was proud of what we put together, and what we get to build on. Um, I think just as a whole, just getting better, being a better player on the field. How much quicker can I recognize things on the field? How much quicker can I, get my hands on the man? How much quicker can I get out of my stance and all that? But I guess if there was like a specific point, I want to be better in the run game. I think that was the place I don't want to say necessarily struggled, but I wasn't as, but my run game wasn't as good as my pass rush game. I want to balance that out more. I want to be more of a presence on the field and become more of a true three down guy on the field. I think that'll really elevate my game going forward, and really put me in a separate category if I can really emphasize that. Probably around that 49ers game we played on a Thursday night, and you're watching the college like championship weekend wrap up, and like, damn, we still got 5, 6 more weeks of the season left. And then I think when we so there's the NFLPA rule of you have a certain amount of weeks with pads, and you get like 15 padded practices. So we had finished our padded practices up around like week 15, and then when you start playoffs, that clock restarts. So that until then you throw the pads back on. So you go a couple weeks without pads, it feels good, and then playoffs throw them back on. It's like, holy shit, like it just doesn't end. But I mean, it was good. I mean, I think it's just how long the rookie season is when you go from your college season straight to training, straight to the combine, Senior Bowl stuff, and you're going to the draft, OTAs, training camp, then you do the whole thing, right? So I think it's just an all-encompassing, fold of stuff that just it was never ending at some points. But like that's kind of the test of who's going to be the best player in the field, who can fight the elements, who can fight the adversity. And I'm glad that we finished up, and I'm proud of it. Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. I think I think from a competitive standpoint is where it helped the most. I think it was cool, and I was like, oh, I got somebody familiar, I got somebody that I'm going to work with, somebody I can go to for stuff. And, times get tough, whatever it may be. But for me personally, and I think he'd say the same, like that competitive drive of just wanting to be better than the next guy. It's not wanting him to be great, but you want him to be better. So I mean, it's kind of goes hand in hand, though. Just going after each other as far as work and film room and off the field, whatever it may be, just attacking it every day. And having somebody you've been grinding with since college be able to do the same in the NFL is pretty special. And I think it made it all that much sweeter, because, like you said, at the beginning of the season, I mean, we were banged up. We had a lot of injuries. I mean, some of the top guys we had were banged up. On the offensive line, Cooper Kupp was banged up. Cooper was banged. I mean, we had a lot of guys out, and then on top of that, how young of a defense we were. I mean, we're a defense made up of, you know, a lot of young guys, first and second year players. I mean, you sprinkle in a few vets, but for the most part, we're built on youth. And I think us adjusting one to the NFL and then adjusting to playing with each other, because it is a big deal, playing within the scheme and playing for each other and just having the familiarity with each other to go out there and take advantage of what you see in film all week. So I think it wasn't until really about week 8, 9 until we really started to click and really start, turn things around on defense, and then offense was able to get healthier. And then, we were all talking about early in the season, you see we're banged up in the early season on the IR list, and then at the end of the season, every team's got, 10, 15 guys in there. We got one or two or three. So that's where we started to get that confidence. Like, okay, we're healthy, we're feeling good, we're on a roll. I mean, I don't know what the exact number was. We won like 8 games in a row or something. We went like 8-1, like a certain time span was pretty cool. So going into playoffs, had a ton of confidence. And then, so much happening out here in LA on top of that into the playoffs when we got the fires going on. And, there's so much, devastation happening out here in LA, and our game gets moved to Arizona. And I think it was just we got all our families out there. Everything about the Rams moved to Arizona for that playoff game. And, getting that first win just felt like it had to happen. It was one of those moments where, we just, everything that happened to us, all the adversity, it was all going to come out in that game, and we were going to take it, or give it to the Vikings. And, won that game. Then after that, you're going to Philly and say, hey, it's all or nothing here. And obviously, Philly, obviously, won Super Bowl, great team. They handled their business. And I think a lot of people in that stadium thought that game was going to end 29-28 going to the Rams. And the Rams were headed back to LA for that NFC Championship. But, it didn't unfold that way. And I think that drives a lot of guys in this team and a lot of, people in this organization for where this team is and where we're headed and the future of what we have. So, I think it might have been a blessing in disguise for what we're building on coming up in the next couple seasons. I have not spoken either yet. I've been kind of bouncing around, busy travel and stuff, but I'm sure I will here soon. But no, I love the additions. I think they're great. I mean, obviously bringing in, two solid guys, really three. But Davante Adams, obviously, resume speaks for itself. I think somebody that everywhere he's gone, he's had success, no matter who the quarterback was and what the situation was. He finds a way to, make it happen. So I'm excited to see him paired up with Matthew Stafford. I think that could be with him, Puka, and the rest of the squad, I think that could be a pretty lethal lineup. And then obviously Poona Ford, I think he's been one of the more slept on defensive tackles in the NFL for recent years, and especially last year. I think he put together a really good season. And in my opinion, I think he's exactly what the defense needs. Somebody in the middle that's going to be controlling, and somebody that's going to, demand and double just, by sheer size and dominance. And I think when it comes to our run game, he's going to be exactly what we need. And I know I'm excited to get to work. I know Kobe and the rest of the guys are excited we brought him in too. So I'm just ready to get to work with him. I know everyone in this organization is excited. We didn't make a large amount of free agent signings, but I think the quality is definitely there. Yeah, I think being a young player, you're always surprised by moves like that. Just because you're so new to the league, and in college, you're so used to guys being there, and there's no trades in college, obviously, right? So that was tough. I had started to build a good relationship with Cooper, later in the season, so I was a little disappointed that was going on. But as I've kind of learned, it's the unfortunate side of the business, and you never want to see your brother, get traded or released, whatever happens. But you also know that this is kind of how the business is handled, and you got to keep moving on. You got to keep playing the ball, and obviously wish the best for Cooper and his family. He's gonna wherever he goes, he's gonna make it happen. And I truly believe that. I mean, he's a professional to the highest level, and I think no matter who he plays for, he's gonna make that wide receiver room better. He's gonna make that team better because he's a great human. And I really can't say enough good things about him. He's really one of the greatest humans I've been around, and just the way he carries himself, the way he goes about his work, the way he loves his family and takes care of his family. I mean, he really is top notch, and it sucks to see him go, but I'm excited to see what the journey takes him.